Are we hot? Yeah. Now we're hot. I don't know. I bet you could fill up a 17-hour SD card.
I don't know.
It might take a beer or two, but I bet you could pull it off. All right. Shall we?
I've not been drinking a lot of beer lately. Not a bad thing.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll talk about that.
I did have a couple of beers last night.
Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to ShiftLess. Coming to you live from the swamps of Louisiana.
In Texas.
It's a little steamy this morning, Bradford.
It is a little steamy. We were blessed with a little bit of rain last night. I don't think we got that much. I wasn't even here. I was at the trail.
We got more thunder than rain at our place, but any little bit was greatly appreciated.
According to my weather app, we got 0.06 inches. So
that sounds about right. It was enough to see drops on the concrete patio for about 5 minutes, and then it blew over. But man, yeah, we could use a good gully washer.
Yeah. I rode Knob Hills this weekend on Sunday, and that trail needs a little rain as well.
They all do.
Yeah.
The dirt roads need rain.
Yeah.
My foundation needs rain so bad.
North
my
Shore,
God.
North Shore needs rain desperately. It was cool though. We rode from here on Sunday. We rode from here to Canyon Falls, and then rode the Canyon Falls Trail, and then you can come out of Canyon Falls, the neighborhood, and in their efforts to widen 377, they've now moved all of the utility poles, and they've got a dirt road,
a cleared area.
Well, they've got double track running all the way to Knob Hills.
Nice.
So we were able to ride dirt all the way to Knob Hills. And
is that main Canyon Falls exit on, and then take it all the way from there?
Yep.
Did you go across the road?
We went across the road, yeah.
All right.
So that was really pleasant because you don't have to worry about cars and stuff. I hate 377. So that was cool. I mean, it's obviously...
You know what I hate worse than 377, though?
380.
That would be 380. Yeah.
It's only what, 13 off. Yeah. Wait, 370. No, 3. 3. Coffee hasn't kicked in yet.
Obviously.
Yeah. But it looks like our temperatures are breaking, and
well, supposedly it's broken right now, but man, it ain't feeling it.
Nah, it's steamy. But next week, I mean, we're going to be into the 60s at night.
Nice.
And highs in the 80s and chances of rain. I feel like we have...
Don't get ahead of yourself.
I know. As I was saying it real time, I started to realize how ignorant what I was about to say was going to sound.
Usually we'll get that September respite, and everybody's all giddy and falls here.
Yeah.
And then we second half of September and the first week of October are still triple digits.
We call it fake fall.
Yep.
But
blue balls fall.
So what's going on in the cycling world?
Well, I will tell you what.
Justin Carey.
Justin kicked ass. Mm-hmm. But our Texas contingent kicked ass out of Gravel Worlds. That was pretty damned impressive.
What are you speaking of? I guess I'm not in the loop.
Lauren Stevens.
Oh yeah.
Won the women's elite.
Oh shit! I didn't even see that. Heck yeah.
Emily Newsom came in third in the women's elite.
Heck yeah.
Matt Stevens, 11th in the men's elite. But Matt hasn't, he hasn't really been racing.
Yeah.
Lately. So just a whisker off the top 10.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we hear some rumblings out of Matt in the not too distant future.
That'd be awesome.
Christy Tracy, third in the women's long Voyage 300 miler.
Yeah.
Levi McCoy.
So Lauren Stevens was the 100, right? Or
No,
what was the
150.
distance? Oh, 150.
It was 150,
Okay.
and she won it.
I didn't know what the...
And she won SBT Gravel the week before that,
Yeah, what a beast.
and she won the 100-miler at Unbound Gravel too.
Wow. She's on form.
Yeah, I got a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
She might be gunning for world champion from all the worlds.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Are you saying like long-term Los Angeles 2028?
No. I'm talking UCI Gravel
Oh, yeah.
World Championships as well.
That would be badass.
I think she's gunning for that, but that's it. That's just a guess. We have not spoken about that.
Yeah.
So that would be cool to win Gravel Worlds
Yeah.
and UCI Gravel Worlds. There's no debate who the world champion is at that point, sort of thing. So, but anyway, Justin Carey absolutely kicked ass.
Yeah.
17th place.
Yeah. I mean, respectable. I wonder how many were in the field.
I believe it was 63, 65 started, something like that.
Yeah. And Peter's one of them, so, Justin didn't have to worry about him. He finished in like 45 hours or something.
Peter?
I saw Peter's right up.
I didn't see it. I didn't see him in the official rankings. I didn't expect to.
Yeah, he said once again his finish didn't count because he went over the cutoff.
He missed cutoff.
Yeah. Well, he slept.
That's mine, right?
Yeah, he slept at the post office for like 6 hours or something. He only had like 40.
I'm not laughing at you, Peter. I am not.
No, we're laughing with you. I did see a picture of him with Floyd Landis, which I thought was funny. But
yeah, I saw that too.
So way to go, Justin. Man, that guy.
Well, and he got a ton of screen time on the coverage too.
I didn't see the coverage yet.
So yeah, look, when you get a chance, look that up. They've got actually the streaming on that one was live.
Yeah.
And it was pretty darn good.
I saw the clip that McAfee tagged him on where the women's elite race was passing him, and I guess Lauren recognized either him or his kid, and
then he jumped on her wheel.
And he said he stayed there for like 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So good for him, man.
And he got a lot of coverage then. And there was some of the commentary from some of the people commenting, because it's always a big deal these days, and it kind of came up during Unbound about there's controversy, drama, contrived-versy around
contrived-versy. That's an interesting.
It's one of Kevin's conspiracy theory words.
I do have to apologize too. I called you out on winnowing because I didn't think it was a word. So I apologize.
It's all right.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I have to make amends for
I taught you something.
Well, maybe. Be something none of my teachers ever did.
I taught you to research.
Yeah. Do your own research. I'm sorry, I cut you off. The contrived-versy.
So there's an ongoing discussion, I guess is the best way to describe it. It's going a couple seasons now.
Okay.
At the Grand Prix level, elite women, and the issues with them utilizing men to draft off of.
Yeah. It started at SBT a couple of years ago. That was where the real fuss happened.
It started a long time. It's been a topic of discussion for a while.
That's where it really came to a head, at least
maybe,
on my radar.
Maybe. Yeah. But it's still an ongoing topic. And ultimately, to this point, there is not a no drafting rule per se.
Right. But they're separating the field enough now that it seems like they've almost precluded the necessity to draft because the people that are falling back.
Well, it came into play in Unbound, or was it Unbound or no? It came into play at Leadville.
Oh, really? I didn't see anything about that.
I think they downplayed the controversy of it, sort of thing. But it was one of those things. It was rumbling.
Yeah.
And
love to hear your English pronunciation of controversy.
Controversy?
No, they say it different.
Oh.
Controversy.
Oh.
Have you ever watched the Global Bike Network?
Every once in a while.
I loved how they just you take for granted the way you pronounce stuff, and they say stuff, and you're like, wait, what? So I'm sorry. Continue.
That's all good. No, it's all. So at Leadville, Sophia hopped on to the wheels of several men with a ways to go and brought herself to pass another rider. There was no rule against it.
Yeah.
There was no rule against it.
Nor should there be. I think. Go continue. I'm sorry.
No,
I
go ahead.
Opinions.
I want to hear your opinions.
I think that it should be on the race organizers to either separate the field enough to where that's not a factor, or they should just deal with it. I mean, every female in the field has that potential. So where I see it's a big problem is, like, say if you had a team, and I'm just going to pick a brand, X brand, whatever, and they enter a men's team with the explicit concern of creating a draft for their female, person.
Right.
I mean, unless it's, a whole team pulling their own teammate, I don't see really where it's that big of a deal. I mean, isn't that a thing that's afforded to all females in that field? I mean,
so here's where the issues come about. I don't disagree with the logic, but here's where the issues come about, and it came into play both at Leadville and, in this case, at potentially and at Gravel Worlds, and it was a topic of discussion among the commentators, and particularly when Justin was in the mix.
Yeah. That was reversed, though. He was drafting off the women.
Let me finish.
Yeah, fair. Continue. Sorry. I'm feeling very interrupty today.
You are.
Sorry.
Am I droning? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. No, you're good. You're 100% good.
So the Leadville issue was, I mean, even elite men, first corral men, a bunch of them are going to be falling back towards the end. So there's no way to separate the women and the men enough so that there is no overlap somewhere along the route.
Right.
And obviously when you have 300 milers in the mix with 150 milers, there's no way to separate them either.
Right.
So first that addresses the premise of, well, if you just separate them enough, it takes care of itself. It doesn't. In some races, in the right situations, like at Unbound, it mostly did, but it was still potentially a factor.
Yeah. I guess the way I'm thinking about it is, if you have the first corral falling back, at some point it gets to be where the lead women that are actually in pursuit of a podium finish are not going to be benefited by drafting off these people that are falling off the back. I mean, maybe a little leapfrog, a little recovery.
So here's the hypothetical on that. So here's the hypothetical. Let's throw Team Spinistry under the bus, okay? Hypothetically, Team Spinistry has 5 elite men that start in that corral. Team Spinistry has 5 elite women that start in the women's corral. 2 of the Team Spinistry elite men are going for the podium. The other 3, they know they're not going to win it, but they qualified for the elite race. Hypothetically, those 3 elite men can soft pedal back to the women, and then drag their women racers further up.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like that's
but
where.
There's no, if
there's no rule, there's no rule.
There's no rule. You can't take the rule to the level of, well, teammates can't. Well, where is a teammate? So hypothetically, then we can take it to, here's Team Spinistry. That's one team. Well, here's Team Big Pig. That's another team.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Team Spinistry is not Team Big Pig, but they're all good friends and they help each other out, or they have the same sponsor or whatever else. So that's where it starts getting complicated at those elite and sponsored levels.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the Olympics were an example of that as well, because you had outside of the Olympics teammates that didn't work with their country teammates at the Olympics, but they worked with their sponsor teammates when they're from outside the Olympics. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's it does get complicated. Now, I'm not making.
So what's the solution then? Just have the events on different days?
I'll come up with my idea for a solution in a moment. But what I want to come back to the Justin in the mix of it. So they weren't making a big deal about it, but there were definitely some comments from one of the commenters, and which it's not surprised that it came from this commenter, that that 300 miler is in the middle, and it wasn't just the Lauren and Emily group. There was the second group of women that they caught up with him as well. He could have an impact on the race. Not that it wasn't being presented that he was going to drag the others up. It was being presented that, well, if he hops in and rides their wheel and rides with that group, the implication was that, he could be a shitty rider and take out one of the elite women riders. They weren't saying Justin was a shitty rider. They were talking about the concept in general.
Only because they didn't know Justin, right? Sorry, Justin.
So ultimately, my takeaway is this: it's still riding bicycles on gravel roads.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's what this is about. If we start getting too nitpicky on who can ride with whom, we're just gonna turn into the road scene.
Yeah.
And when USA Cycling took over mountain bike racing, and it's gonna chase everybody off.
Yeah.
You're just gonna have the pointy end of the field playing with each other every weekend.
Yeah.
And that gets really old really quick.
I'm struggling to see their point where how Justin, a 300 miler latching onto the 150 women's, is going to impact them negatively. I mean,
it wasn't that he would. The implication was it has the potential to be a negative impact if he overlaps wheels with somebody or crosses bars or whatever else.
I mean, that could happen in the women's group too. Just because
we're on the same page.
But men are better drivers than women, anyways.
Oh my God!
It's a fact. Look it up.
And ShiftLess episode 70 something. Not brought to you by anybody, because we're never going to be able to book a real deal sponsor for this show. And we like it that way.
I just don't. I don't see how that's even a valid concern, because
I didn't say it was a valid concern.
I know, but it just,
it's actually a very invalid concern.
And that's what I'm saying. Like it almost doesn't even merit repeating, because it's silly.
All right, so here's where Kevin's going to get us chased away from a permanent sponsor.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this, and I am going to phrase it.
Good.
We hear rumblings like that about the women's racing in gravel. I'm not saying that's what. I'm not saying it's universal among the women's racers. I'm not implying that at all. But there is definitely more of those concerns brought up about impacting the women's specific race. And personally, I'm one of those that disagrees with the concept of the completely segregated racing. In my head, and I can have my mind changed. I'm not saying this is the only way it can be, but in my head, the generally speaking, the other participants are part of the course. Dealing with the participants, that's a feature of the course.
Yeah, like Solo notoriously used to say, "I'm part of the course."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he used to say that? Yeah. Well, he's a big part of the course.
Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong, but my perception is the females would overall prefer to have a separated field.
I don't think you can generalize it to that. I think it's kind of I think it's a coin toss at this point.
Oh, really?
I think there are a lot of the women that. Okay.
Well, I mean, look what happened at the Olympics. You know,
right?
It was unfettered by anything else. It was a closed course. There's nobody else on course. And so the race was allowed to evolve at its own pace and natural state. Whereas you're not afforded that in a gravel situation when you have intermixed fields. So, I mean, I get that the outcome can change based on how many other components there are.
Right.
Whether it be men or even another group in front falling back through and you having to fight through. And granted, gravel is not that difficult, but like at a place like Leadville, where and that happens just with the difference in corrals. You know, you have people you get to a climb and it's technical, and you've got people that are going really slow in the A line, and you're trying to pass them and you have to take a more difficult line. You know, all of those things come into factor. But I don't know. I mean, I say just let them race. But
I agree with the just let them race, and I guess, but I'm hearing both sides from you there. You're putting out the women's Olympic race as it sounded like a positive example.
I am arguing both sides. I mean,
okay. I'm just making sure we're on the same page.
I don't think I have a strong standpoint. I understand from an organization standpoint, you can't have the men's race in the morning and the women's race in the evening, or vice versa. And you can't have the women's race on Friday and the men's race on Saturday.
But see, that's the thing.
Yeah.
A lot of the vocal proponents of a truly segregated race are saying that promoters should do all of that.
None of those people have ever been promoters, and they don't understand the logistics and organization, insurance.
I'm not disagreeing with you there, but that's the position. It's good enough for the men. It should be good enough for the women.
Yeah,
sort of thing. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying saying that's the position. But there are a lot of the women participants that are actually coming from the other end, and this is basically where I'm kind of grounded at the moment myself. Unfortunately, for whatever reasons, the women's participation base in cycling events globally is a very, very small percentage of the women's population.
But arguably on the rise.
Potentially on the rise. I don't know about arguably, but we'll get there. But I want to touch on this one point, and then we can go into the other stuff.
Okay, I have a question too. When you finish this point, yeah.
The reality of it is, at the elite women's levels, and the women racers admit this amongst themselves, maybe 5 to 10 of the elite women's racers are really they're the front of the pack.
Yeah.
All the other women can't keep up with that lead group, generally speaking. I'm oversimplifying here.
It may be 10 people that are always in the top 10.
Basically.
Yeah,
that 8, 9, and 10 are kind of iffy.
Yeah.
And 11, 12, and 13 are in a whole different category. They're not even...
Yeah.
So what...
That's very cut and dry, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
So what those not top 10 women need, they need those men to ride with and draft with, and
to even be contenders.
Just to pick up their skill and their abilities. And because if they have a segregated women's race, they're out there just time trialing by themselves all day long, like a spinistry ride with 20 people that show up, sort of thing. So for them to build up their abilities, to build up their skills, to build up their fitness, they need those men that might be maybe tier 2 men. Yeah. But they're still very strong riders side by side with those women. They're comparable ability riders regardless of gender.
Yeah. So, first my question is, and I don't think either one of us have an answer, but how much is the separation between the start time of the men's and the start time of the women's? I think that would be the best place to kind of put that true separation in. Like if the men's race started a full hour before the women's race, I don't think we'd be having this discussion. Instead of I'm imagining it was like 20 minutes.
But again, but you're talking elite racers versus elite racers. You still have to account for the everyday Joes, the Brads and the Calebs and the Kevins that show up for those events. So you can't have the women start an hour behind the men, and then the everyday Joe start an
careful.
hour. Am I still? Yeah, I'm still
you're
on.
still
An hour behind the women. So you can't have the men starting at 6 a.m., the women starting at 7 a.m., the Peters starting at 8 a.m., because then Peter won't finish for 3 or 4 days, sort of thing. So that's...
Yeah, I mean, that gets tough. I mean, just...
And again, you're back to the point of so we do have that women's elite field that starts an hour behind. And the top 10 are racing each other. The other 30 in that elite field are just out there riding solo, not having a lick of fun and not getting any coverage.
Well, my other thought, back to what you were saying, is those, call it 11 through the back of the field.
We'll call it 11 through 50.
Yeah, need to mix it up with the men to up their skills. So I'm inclined to think, just based on that thought process, like, what if we just not ignored it, but just said, hey, for the next 2 years, this is how we're going to do it, and let's let things happen the way they happen. And I would say maybe in year 3 we reevaluate, and I think that you would see the field start to sharpen as far as the women go.
Maybe.
But you'd have a lot of hurt feelings and stuff.
Maybe, and who is the we? Because each event is different. Even in the Lifetime Grand Prix, every event is structured differently.
Yeah.
And let alone going from one promoter to the next, SPT to Gravel Worlds to the Privateer or whatever.
There is no solution is going to make everybody happy. It doesn't matter.
No doubt about it.
It doesn't matter what you do. You can't please all the people all the time. But that's the other thing is the people that are the ladies that are drafting off the men are not the ones complaining, obviously. And the girls that are on the podium, whether they're drafting or not drafting off the men, are not the ones complaining.
Funny you say that. Funny you say that. A lot of the vocalization of it, a lot of the contrived-versy of it, in my opinion, it's definitely from women, but women that don't really have a dog in the hunt.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
They're not participating at those elite levels.
So how much weight does their voice really carry if they're not in contention?
If they have a huge social media presence, it can carry a lot of weight. If they have a big YouTube channel, it can carry a lot of weight.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, and I'm not pointing fingers at anyone specifically there. I'm just saying a lot of the opinion comes from women, but they don't really have
a dog in the fight. Yeah. So that's the thing. It's like, why are we letting their voice carry so much weight?
I mean, that's human nature. The squeaky wheel always gets the grease.
Yeah. I don't. I mean, in an ideal world, in my mind, the women could race by themselves. And that's not to be sexist or anything. It's actually quite the opposite. I would love to see what the women's elite field could do in a vacuum without any kind of outside meddling, much like the Olympics. That's why I was saying that. But I get from an organizer, promoter standpoint, it's damn near impossible. I think they did kind of the best they could at Unbound this year. They even had a separate finish and everything for the different distances. But,
separate shoots, but same finish line. Yeah.
But and it seemed at least on the surface that the females were happy with the way everything went down at Unbound. I didn't hear all the little rumblings, but both sides of my mouth again. Ideally, I would like to see the women race by themselves, just so everybody feels like they have a fair chance. But I realize that that's damn near impossible. I mean, because then you're going to end up doing podiums, throughout the day and blah, blah, blah. And, booths and demos and all that stuff takes on a whole nother, window. But I don't know what the answer is.
Oh, well, nobody does. And that's ultimately that's the issue. Now, it's funny that you bring up the Unbound. And that was actually that's so far been the most tangible example of that dichotomy I was talking about between the pointy end of the field and the rest of the elite women. So obviously they had the 9-bunch finish for the women at Unbound. Let's round it off and call that top 10.
Yeah.
So those women were pretty happy working together and having that bunch finish. Some could say that they worked really hard to make that happen.
Yeah. And largely unfettered. I mean, they weren't drafting off of men and stuff, were they?
No, because they had a group of 9 to work with.
Yeah.
So they didn't need those guys.
Right.
But all of the other women that were further back, let's say 11th on. I'm not calling out the 11th place rider.
Sure.
But they were all.
Not all. I get what you're saying.
Many were very vocal about this would have sucked if I didn't have men to ride with. This would have been terrible. It would not. There would have been no reason for me to be part of the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
So what are we saying here?
I'm just saying that's an example of it. Now, if we want to take it full circle, so to speak, how do we approach it for the privateer?
I don't know.
You want to hear my idea?
I do.
Or do we save that for another episode?
I'd like to identify as a woman and just race with the women.
God, you're going to kill us. You'd still lose like hell.
Yeah. But the view would be way better.
You're doing your damnedest, aren't you?
I am. I mean, plus women are just nicer,
Oh, now I'm going to do my damnedest. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that.
Well, our spouses out of the conversation, women are just nicer.
Oh, you're really in trouble now. I'm going to make sure Paula hears that.
I'm feeling feisty today.
What is with you?
I'm excited. It's new refrigerator day. So excited. I am disproportionately excited about getting a refrigerator. I'm such an old man. It's going to make my life so incredible.
How late was your last beer last night?
I don't know, like 9:30, 10 o'clock. We went to the tavern after, dude, did I tell you this last time? Tuesday night at the tavern at the lakeside. We'll come back to the women in a minute. Their signature dishes.
We're in plenty trouble with the women at this point.
It's okay. I love women. Love women. The tavern has all their signature dishes half off on Tuesday night.
Okay.
The tavern's owned by a mountain biker, and I don't know if it's just happenstance that it's on Tuesday or if it's because TNSS. But I prefer to think it's the latter.
No, it's because it's slow and they're trying to get people in the door on Tuesdays.
I prefer to think that they're pandering to TNSS. But you can get a full rack of ribs, which is normally $29, which is still not a bad deal for as good as these ribs are.
Rack of ribs anywhere else, $50.
Yeah, out of a non-barbecue house. So on Tuesday night, you can get a full rack of ribs with a loaded baked potato for $14.50. And it is a massive plate of food. So, and then they also have salmon, like horseradish crusted salmon. I mean, everything they do is a freaking hit. Like they did, sweet chili cauliflower for an appetizer, fried dill pickles with homemade ranch dressing.
Episode 70-something brought to you by the Tavern at Lakeside.
Outstanding. Look at this rack of ribs.
And I'm saying episode 70-something because I'm calling an audible.
Yeah, did you release yesterday?
I did not, and that's where I'm going. Looks tasty.
That's
I think this episode talking about gravel worlds and everything is a little time sensitive as well. So I'm going to throw this one up tomorrow.
That's fair.
And maybe that's just kind of our focus going forward, is try to turn them around as much as and that's on me. That's nothing on your end.
But we're going to follow the lifetime Grand Prix model
within 48 hours, guaranteed. Well, it helps.
Yeah.
That
we don't sit on them for a week.
I think a little more timely might be beneficial to the listeners. I'm not saying we're good. I am going nowhere near that at all. But there is less editing involved in our conversations now than there used to be. So it's where it was a full morning or a full afternoon project before. Now I can usually knock it out in a couple hours.
Yeah.
So,
well, don't edit any of that stuff I said out about women. I don't regret any of it. I don't know. I literally don't think that there is an answer to the women and men's racing.
There's never a black and white answer. Yeah. And that's what, I mean, it's just like everything else in life.
Yeah.
The polarized ends of things are just, it's white or it's black.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everyone else is a shade of gray somewhere in between. But it's those polarized ends that have the loudest voices, unfortunately.
Well, and that's kind of where I was going with that. Like, if we pandered to all the women with the loudest voices and totally flipped everything on its head to appease them, then you would have the opposite end of the spectrum complaining just as loud. So if you flip it, you're still going to have a problem. If you keep it the way it is, you still have a problem. I mean, historically, it hasn't mattered. It's becoming more of an issue because, the women's elite are getting much faster. The field is growing, and the competition has gotten a lot stronger.
Kind of yes, kind of no.
My very amateur opinion.
Kind of yes, kind of no. So here's what's interesting and actually fascinating from my perspective. And I think it shows more in the women's field than the men's, but it does show in the men's field as well. Mm-hmm. Well, our Olympic champions, an example of that as well. So this whole disruption of the USA cycling model that's happened essentially because of the gravel scene and the elite racing at those levels. Mm-hmm. But it's arguable that the whole Kristen Faulkner thing kind of was a disruption of the classic USA cycling model as well. What that's allowing to happen is high-level athletes becoming high-level cycling racers in fairly short time frames. Mm-hmm. The whole USA cycling model was built on, well, you have to start racing at 14 years old, and you can't become an elite racer till you're 26 years old, and you have to do all these steps in between.
Right.
And if you don't do all those things, we don't give a shit about you. Yeah. And so people that weren't on that USA cycling path, they didn't come into it because, I missed the boat already, or it's like, what the fuck is it? This is stupid. This is too complicated. Now, people that are rowers, that are marathoners, that are triathletes, that are speed skaters, that are dog mushers, high-level athletes that pick up a bike and start riding and go, this is fun. Yeah.
Faulkner was 7 years into her cycling pursuit. And
that's a stretch because she started out just riding casually in tennis shoes in Central Park. Yeah. I think there was probably a year, maybe even more, before she started even getting competitive on a bicycle.
Yeah. And she was, just for a little backstory, she was an alternate for the Olympics and was put in only a month before the Olympics.
So I want to hear. I want to hear the whole story on this, and this is what I was alluding. So this was really interesting, and I think we know somebody that might have some insight on it, but I'm not gonna make any assumptions. So the woman, yes, Kristen was an alternate. Mm-hmm. I'm still confused how she even got the alternate status. I'm under the impression there were some.
She knew some people.
There was something going on in the background to make sure she was an alternate. I don't know who was involved and who wasn't. I don't know who was fighting the system.
Yeah.
But my understanding, and if I'm wrong, somebody reach out and touch us, shiftlesslive@gmail.com. Tell me how wrong I am. This is my understanding of the situation. The woman that was slotted for the Olympics position was a good friend of Kristen's and felt that Kristen should be the one that was going for the gold.
Wow.
And so
she said, give my spot to Kristen?
So basically she knew that Kristen wasn't going to get
a chance.
Slot, an actual slot. But she knew she was the most capable. I don't know that level of detail on it.
That's very big of her.
But her whole plot was she was going to get in there. She was going to get the spot. She won the spot so she could give it up so Kristen could be alternate and take it.
Wow.
That's my understanding of the situation because she knew that USA Cycling wasn't going to give Kristen the right opportunity.
Wow, that girl deserves a gold medal.
That's my understanding of it at a very high level.
But what does that have to do with men mixing it up with women and women mixing it up with men?
Well, where it does somewhat come into play, I know you're being facetious, but it does somewhat.
No, I'm just wondering how the two play together.
So what I was talking about before, what's happening now has been happening. I mean, the Lifetime Grand Prix has been a big motivator of it, and the attention it gets and the prize money and so forth. Because the reality is, and we were talking about it at the dinner the other night. The vast majority of our Olympic athletes, they're working at Home Depot and Circle K and whatever else, and training 30 hours a week, still working whatever job they can to pay the rent. But they're elite athletes, but they're not making elite money, and they're never going to make elite money.
Yeah,
they're truly passionate athletes. Ultimately, is what the shot putters and everything else.
Yeah,
it's only those top level sprinters and swimmers and gymnasts that get those huge endorsement deals and things like that.
Yeah.
The 98% of the Olympic athletes, they're doing a 9-to-5 job at minimum wage somewhere.
Yeah.
So the draw of the Lifetime Grand Prix for athletic people is real. It's a way you can make tens of thousands of dollars riding a bike. And so if you are
you can get national notoriety.
And you can get sponsorships.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars of sponsorships, if not millions, potentially. There are very few athletic opportunities in the United States like that. In other countries, there are more of them. And the athletes themselves are subsidized by the countries. It's part of our patriotism. We want you to fly our country's flag, so we're going to pay you to train and everything like that.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen, generally speaking, in the United States. So what's been happening with the gravel scene and the notoriety of the higher levels of racing there are athletes from other sports are being drawn towards cycling. And I mean, it's been more noticeable in the women's racing than the men's. And that is a byproduct of, for whatever reasons, women's competitive cycling has not been attracting athletes for decades for various reasons that I'm not going to go down that one right now.
I see this as a positive, though. I mean, anything that brings cycling into...
So that's what I'm saying is, but the penetration is still low. There's still not a lot of elite women's racers, and it's not creating new cyclists, new athletes that start at the cycling level. Right now it's bringing in athletes from other sports to become cyclists. And that's not a bad thing.
No.
That's not a bad thing at all. And actually, it may be what we need.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, anything that grows the sport of cycling, anything that makes cycling seem more approachable, I think is a positive. Is a net positive.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
The reality, though, is the way I look at it, though, this isn't a 2 or 3 year model.
Yeah. 10.
This is a 5 or 10 year to bring in more athletes to become elite cyclists, sort of thing. And then in the interim, you will have more young ladies that are coming from lacrosse or field hockey or whatever else and go to college and start riding a bike.
I mean, there's a reason they highlighted Faulkner's story is because even if it only affected, say, 100 girls that were, I don't know, in the 8 to 15 year range, right. And they go, man, if she can do it, I can do it.
Well, how many? And I say this as girls because we're talking junior high and high school that become young women. How many that are super competitive soccer, volleyball, softball,
right?
Traditional lady sports,
cross country running, yeah.
Traditional lady sports at the middle school and high school level that very few of them even go off to college and do those things,
right? Or
they go to a very small school and do it. But there's nothing after that.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So, and that's always been my point is what we're trying to do in the cycling industry to encourage women to race bicycles. The reality is the participant base we're trying to draw that from, they're not competitive women to begin with, generally speaking. Existing cyclists, for the most part, existing women cyclists aren't in that competitive mindset.
Yeah.
So what you need to draw is competitive women to cycling.
I think we spend enough time on women cycling.
Do you?
I don't even know.
Do you?
Yeah.
Look at, you're part of the problem. Look at you, squashing the woman.
I'm not. I was advocating for women to get everything they want.
I understand.
Main takeaway, I want the ladies to be happy. Keep doing that.
Am I making noise?
It's noisy as can be.
I'm sorry. I'm trying this without the headphones today. I have a reason.
Oh, man, I don't know. There's no answer. That's the problem.
No, there isn't.
Let's keep talking about Olympics. You know what I heard?
What's that?
I want to put something on your radar.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna look it up, just to make sure I'm right.
Well, when you phrase it that way, there's an 80% chance you're wrong.
No. I heard... Yep, there it is. In 2028, the Olympics are going to be in Los Angeles.
Yes, that's for certain.
However, just across the border in Oklahoma City, they're going to be hosting Olympic softball. I don't know why they wouldn't hold that in California. And canoeing. So, instead of taking place on the West Coast, these sports will be in the middle of the country. They announced Friday that the canoe slalom and softball will take place in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. So, I'm thinking, as someone that's never been to an Olympic event, it might be cool to go see. Just to see how big of an event is canoe slalom?
I don't even know what canoe slalom is.
I don't either. I'm willing to learn. But I just think...
If it was curling, I'd be there.
Dude. I don't even want to tell you. Curling excites me more than my new refrigerator. But I think it would be cool to go see. Since it's going to be so freaking close.
I don't understand. Why in the world are they doing those in Oklahoma City?
Well, this says softball is synonymous with Oklahoma City. Did not know that.
No.
The Women's College World Series has been held there with the exception of one season since 1990. Also didn't know that.
Okay.
Softball is not on the Olympic program for Paris 2024.
Okay.
But
so let's try this one other way. What is your source right now? Is this the Olympics website? Is this
USA Today?
So it's USA Today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
It says River Sports Rapids is a $45.2 million whitewater rafting and kayaking center located at the crossroads of I-35 and I-40. it will host the 2026 International Canoe Federation Canoe Slalom World Championship. But that's also the facility that they're going to do. It's a really cool looking place.
Are these actual IOC official Olympic events for 2028, or is this maybe a preview of a potential event down the road sort of thing?
No, they're talking about two separate events, but they're
I'm talking about both. I'm talking about softball and the canoeing both.
So it says both the canoe slalom and softball venues in Oklahoma City are built to international competition standards.
I understand
ensuring
that.
Stand by. Ensuring a high-quality experience for athletes and fans, while allowing LA 28, Los Angeles 28, to realize cost savings and revenue gains to support its balanced budget, LA 28 said in a statement. LA 28 also recognizes that the Oklahoma City community has consistently supported top events for both sports and is confident that they will for these Olympic competitions as well. So it sounds like an official statement to me. Is that what you're confused about?
I'm looking at this from the perspective of an Olympic athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe my perspective would be off.
Well, I mean, do you think canoeing are going to be multi-event athletes? Where they're going to be like, oh,
no,
damn,
no.
I can't run the marathon because it's in LA.
I'm looking at it from, okay, let's say I'm an Olympic softball player in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Just had the Olympics, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to the Olympics in 2028 to play softball. Mm-hmm. Yay!
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to Los Angeles? No, I'm going to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, but if you're from Paris, I mean, you're just excited to come to the United States, the best country in the world. Oklahoma City's not as bad as it used to be. Quit poo-pooing Oklahoma.
Compared to
Los Angeles is a shithole.
Compared to 3 weeks in the Olympic Village in Los Angeles, you do realize the majority of the Olympic athletes
go there to get laid?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You could get laid in worse places than Oklahoma City, I guess. I don't know. I hadn't thought about that. I was thinking about it from a very selfish standpoint is all of a sudden just spectating an Olympic event becomes a lot more feasible for people in our location.
Okay.
That's all I was thinking.
I understand that.
Granted, I wish it was different events.
I don't disagree with that. I'm just looking at it from the perspective of, I mean, it's traditional that the individual sports themselves are scattered about a region.
Right.
I find it really difficult to believe that there's not a viable softball venue in Southern California.
I find it really hard to believe too, because as someone that spent a lot of time in Irvine and Huntington and all those areas, there are baseball fields on baseball fields, and they held softball championships right there in Huntington, I believe, if not, yeah, I want to say it was Huntington, because I know Booker and his beautiful bride were out there at the same time I was. At one point, and she was there for softball.
Right.
So you make a valid point. I'm sure somebody's pockets getting lined.
It's kind of. I want to do a deeper dive into this. I'm wanting to say that for 2028, those are not official Olympic sports yet. Is what it is.
So you're debunking my source?
I'm not debunking the source.
Okay.
I'm thinking it's an incomplete story.
We have 4 years to figure it out.
Exactly.
All I'm saying is,
I'm not going to Oklahoma City to watch canoes and softball.
Okay. Well, then you don't have to go.
I'm
going. I'm going to go. If it works out, I want to go just to see what an Olympic event looks like. I don't care what the event is. And it's only 3 hours from here.
And maybe I'm a bit jaded. When the Olympics were in Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
My folks made a big production of doing that themselves, and they enjoyed it. But They because it was tough to get into the premier events.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
And so they ended up doing, even at the main venues there around Atlanta, they ended up doing some lower level events, and there was not much wow factor there at that time. But that was way back then, so maybe it's different now.
I just want to go see.
I understand.
I mean, obviously, I wish it was something besides canoeing and softball.
I'm not knocking canoeing and softball. It's just I'm not keen on being a spectator for either one.
The canoe slalom, I think, would be very interesting, and I think there's something to be said for it is a lower level event, perceivably. So it may hopefully. So
what did they say the course was for the canoe slalom?
Oh, they had a picture. I was going to show it to you.
Is it on a lake or is it the Colorado River?
No, it's the sports facility. Look here. Hold up. Look at this venue.
I understand that, but
this is a rendering. But you see how they control the water flow, and they have two different courses set up. I mean, it's a closed course, so everything can be.
You say it's a rendering, so it doesn't exist yet?
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, okay.
That I don't know.
Okay.
River Sports Rap. Maybe that is it's an actual picture. Yeah, and there's cars and shit. Okay. I thought it's so perfect. I thought it was a rendering.
Well, I thought that's what the story said, in an existing facility.
It is. My bad. I'm not right about anything. But I think that's freaking cool. You know, I mean, I'd like to go see that venue. Period. But to see an Olympic event, you know, when it's all decorated and all the hullabaloo and, you know, the excitement and everything, I think it'd be freaking cool. You can poo-poo it all you want.
I'm not poo-pooing.
You're straight up poo-pooing.
I'm not poo-pooing. I'm just saying it doesn't interest me. But
yeah, that's fair.
There's a lot of stuff that interests me that doesn't interest you, and vice versa.
Let's talk about bikes. Have you seen this?
Yes,
Schwalbe's new tires.
I've been meaning to ask you about that the last couple episodes. What's your thoughts on radial bicycle tires?
All the videos I watched, first of all, their Schwalbe spokesperson is awful. They need to hire somebody else to be their front man. His communication skills are very weak, to say the most.
Episode 70 something, not brought to you by Schwalbe.
And historically, I've not been a Schwalbe.
You're talking
fan.
The German guy, or
yeah,
okay.
I've not been, and I understand English as a second language, but
I think that's the main thing there.
Yeah.
And he seems to come from an engineering standpoint.
Yeah, 100%. But that being said, I've never been a big Schwalbe fan. I've always found them to be very pressure sensitive in the fact that the sidewall is a lot thinner than the casing where the tread is and such.
I really liked my racing Rouse, except for when they all split on me.
Yeah. But that being said, Schwalbe has been on a mission for, call it the last 5-6 years, to be at the forefront of tire technology. And I think a lot of other tire manufacturers are on step with that as well. I mean, Continental with their sidewall protection and dual compounds and their Chili compound, and, you know, Vittoria with their graphene sidewalls and dual compounds and all of these things. But I think Schwalbe's really breaking the mold here with their radial. At least, I mean, I haven't touched these tires. I don't fully understand, other than just the digestion of the couple of videos that I've watched. But essentially, they're getting the same rolling resistance with a higher pressure, but the same contact patch and a much more supple tire. So effectively, you're able to have as good of a touch.
It feels like 12 PSI at 28.
Right. So you're eliminating the need to run a liner, quote unquote, and you're cutting back on punctures while still maintaining as good of a feel on the tire. I don't know if I'm saying that the right way. The only drawback I see right now, and I hope this is like a trickle-down technology, is it's all based on like downhill tires at this point. And I don't know if that's because this process adds weight and there's not a detriment to having that on a gravity bike versus like a cross country all-terrain tire or all mountain tire or something. So I hope that it trickles into their other tires. I hope that this is just a pilot program to prove that it's worthy and everything else.
Sure.
But on paper, and at least all of my understanding, it seems like it is the latest, greatest tech in tire. So I'm excited about it.
That's my takeaway, generally speaking, as well. I'm excited for the potential it brings, but I think we're at the pointy end of things at the moment. And yes, the downhill aspect is, my estimation is, because it's a heavy ass tire.
That's what I'm afraid of.
And it's more than a season or two away before it becomes XC viable, would be my guess.
Well, that's fair. I mean,
but the reality is, you know who they're really gunning for, don't you?
E-bikers?
Yeah. That's going to be the focus more than XC for a while.
It seems like so much stuff is, everybody's dumping their money into e-bike development and catering to that.
Well, because...
But on the inverse of that, did you watch the Made In show? Did you watch any of the coverage on the Made In?
I was going to be bringing some of that up.
Yeah.
Well,
there was one bike that really stood out to me. But go ahead.
There was one thing that really stood out to me that's outside my scope at the moment, but I want to learn more about it. I get the general concept of it, but it did seem to be almost universal at the Made show, is the 3D titanium printing.
Oh, so sexy. So sexy. I think that I think that is going to be the future of, much like, so if we go back to the 70s and 80s, lugged frames, even before, obviously, I mean, back into the 50s, lugged frames were the hot tech. I think this is the futuristic lugged technology that we're all hoping for, and just the fact that it's in titanium just makes it even sexier.
I think we're 2 to 3 years away from, except for the weightiest weenies of the weight weenies, everybody going blingish on their bike is going to be going towards titanium now. Just so they and it's going to be focused on, like the old lug bikes. This is so distinctly different. Because all the carbon bikes all look the same, generally speaking.
You're not wrong.
And people that spend $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 on a bike, they want to be a little unique, at least.
Sure.
And just, I mean, if I can have some very unique Kevin dropouts on a sexy ass frame, that goes a long way.
Yeah.
And God knows what else they're going to start coming up with on these bits here and those bits there, and you know.
I'm going to see if I can't play
but
this
here's where,
and mute it.
And maybe I'm wrong, but basically what those guys were telling me is,
this is the bike.
Which one's that?
So it's got an integrated, they basically repurposed a dropper into the top tube. So the seat tube angle changes on the fly. This is Bitchin' Bikes. They do a lot of cool stuff. But basically, I can't remember the angles right now. It's 73 to 83, I think is it only has 10 degrees of variance right now.
It's got to be 63 to 73, right?
No, 73 to 83. So he's got a Paul custom dual dropper, so it still runs a dropper. And then see that? So that's for descending or climbing.
Not about to say, I ain't
climbing.
You going over the bar.
Yeah, that's for climbing. And then when you pop it back, then it's for descending.
Okay.
It's really smart. I just don't see enough bracing in this rear triangle to keep it from going side to side and putting a lot of undue stress on that down
bar.
Tube. That bar's super sick.
My pants are wiggling.
Yeah. and it's titanium. But this was, so Josh Dean sent this to me.
All right, be sure to email me that link so I can put it in the show notes, because people are going to be going, what the hell are they talking about?
Super cool tech. I think this is just a prototype, first of all, but basically there's linkage here to allow it to pivot independent of the rest of the frame. And I think that they would benefit from putting a cross brace right in front of that down to the seat tube. But it was really, really cool tech for me. That was the one like major standout.
It was in Portland this year, right?
Yeah, it's in Portland every year. The MADE show is.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. I'm thinking of Handmade Bicycle shows.
No. That's a rotational thing.
Yes. Yeah, that's where I
just go ahead and send this to you right now before I forget. That was the main standout, other than titanium.
All right, wait a minute. So
the titanium
MADE's in August each year in Portland.
In Portland, yeah.
All right, so we're gonna go from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon next August.
Shit. If I win the lottery, we could do that.
Oh no, we'll figure out a way.
Kevin, if you know, I've said this frequently. I don't ever buy lottery tickets. Occasionally, I do when the Powerball's at like
a gazillion dollars,
$700 million. I'll go. Well, I'll spend $5. But my main thought process is, if I ever win the lottery, there are going to be a handful of my friends that I'm going to be like, hey, I can't have fun by myself. So we'll go do some stuff. But yeah, I would love to go to that show. I think, you know, as much video footage as there is of it, I think there's
Sponsor
so much.
the month of August 2025 on ShiftLess.
I think there's so much stuff that doesn't get even discussed on here.
Actually, speaking of that, speaking of it, going back, if you didn't hear our Pineberry episode,
Pineberry.
No,
if you say Pineberry, people think it's spelled Pineberry.
Well, I was going to spell it, but okay.
It's Pineberry.
Pineberry.
Yeah.
Pineberry.us.
It's like you're going to bury a pine.
Yes.
Bury.
Anyway, I got my Pineberry gear.
And you didn't bring it for me to touch?
You need to get your own.
I'm waiting for the long sleeve hoodie to release.
You can get other stuff. I've got the short sleeve shirt. I've got the long sleeve shirt. When the long sleeve hoodie comes out, I'll get it because I've got my coupon code.
I know. I keep looking.
Of ShiftLess.
I literally have my cart populated, and I'm waiting for that shirt because I was going to get it all at the same time.
That saves you 20%.
Yeah. On
some really, this stuff's sweet.
Yeah.
It's really, really nice.
I thought you were going to bring it so I could touch it.
Well, get your own already.
Well, I mean, I just want to touch it. Speaking of bringing stuff, did you bring a bicycle today?
I did not.
You son of a gun. All right, well, I'm going for a ride after this.
I'm not.
No.
I'm not.
Look, there it is. There it is.
It's in.
Yes, it is.
How much is it?
108.
What?
108. Add to cart.
Hell yeah.
Why is my
What colors?
It's in silver pine and I don't know what color this is. And faded blue. I'm going for silver pine.
All right, I'm going to order mine when I get home.
Okay. I added that to my cart. Okay.
So we're going to Maine next year.
Yes, I've already told my wife. I said, this is what's happening.
Yep.
I didn't even say, hey, with your permission. And I told her, this may be unpopular, but we can figure out the logistics between now and then. She's coming with because she's never been to Maine. She's never been to Vermont. I want to go through Vermont as well.
Here's what we do.
Did you order the pocketed ones, or did you order? I don't want a pocket on mine. I don't see. I
got one with a pocket, one without.
Yeah, and well, from an organizer standpoint, I see. Like when you're doing races and stuff, it's nice to have something right there.
I got one way, one the other to see if it makes a difference. Because I see stocking up my whole wardrobe with these things. I do believe it's got high potential for that. But to be fair, you know me, for shits and giggles, once I got those, I did have to order the cheap Amazon version of something similar.
Of course you did.
To see what they're like side by side. And there's no comparison. There's no comparison.
Of course there's not.
I didn't expect there would be. But yeah, it's probably half the price. So it's still not cheap.
Right.
But I mean, the Pineberry stuff is noticeably superior. And the Amazon one wasn't bad.
Yeah.
I'm not implying it was. The Pineberry one is
go.
vastly superior.
Atta girl. All right. Well, I am about to finalize my cart and just go ahead and submit it. I want to circle back to Justin Carey real quick.
Please do.
Because
I don't know if we can get Justin to join us in Maine because he's going to be busy next August.
Oh, no. But I loved this little, even though it's a microcosm that occurred. I'm trying to think of how to say this the right way.
It doesn't sound like you're going to be able to, so just spit it out.
When Justin called out McAfee, I guess McAfee was listening, and McAfee keyed in on that, and he took that clip and posted it on Facebook, and just, I thought it was hysterical. I'm glad it showed up on McAfee's radar that quick. I just think it's super awesome. I love creating that camaraderie and that competition. I mean, I didn't create it, but I just think it's awesome that it's occurring. So that's all. That's it.
Okay.
I thought it was good stuff.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see.
So what's your plan for Maine then? What are you saying?
What we could do,
Mm-hmm.
what we could do hypothetically is I take a vehicle with my Frau, you take a vehicle with your Frau.
Mm-hmm.
They come back here together. And then we take a vehicle and road trip to the other Portland. There's a lot to see between Portland and Portland.
Yeah. So I was talking to Carl last night, our resident ex-Yankee, and he started naming all these states like, oh, you need to go here and here. And I go, Carl, you know what? I've never been to any of those states. Like, I've never been past the Mason-Dixon line.
Understood.
So
I was right there with you a couple years ago.
I've never been to any of the original 13 colonies, I don't think. I've been to North Carolina. That counts, right?
Okay.
But I've never been to Connecticut, Maryland, Rhode Island.
Maryland, Massachusetts,
New Hampshire, Vermont,
Connecticut, New Jersey.
Vermont and Maine are the ones that are like just calling my name.
Understood.
So I don't care what other states we hit. Everything's just going to be bonus as far as I'm concerned. But I definitely want to go through Vermont to get to Maine, which I don't think is incredibly difficult.
So I did a wham bam thank you ma'am road trip several years ago to visit my daughter to go to a Red Sox game at Fenway Park. So
oh my God.
So we did Washington D.C. to see my brother. And
dream trip.
And then so I mean that was road trip, so I caught some of Tennessee, which I don't think I'd been through before, some of Virginia and West Virginia, which I hadn't been through before. Washington D.C. up through Maryland, went to Massachusetts, overnighted or spent the weekend in Boston, went to the Red Sox. All the grandparents flew in for that leg of the trip, and then took the other two kids, and then the daughter for that birthday, she had to fly back to work or whatever, school. The other two kids rode with me, and we did New York, Niagara Falls, and then road trip back to...
How impressive was Niagara Falls?
Niagara Falls was and I expected to be disappointed by it. It was a winner.
I've heard it's deafening.
It's an amazing winner.
Yeah.
And I was one of those that, I mean, I've been looking forward all my life to just making it to the Grand Canyon. And when I did make it to the Grand Canyon, that first view is like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
The rest of that day, struggling through the tourists and everything else, it wasn't worth it. Basically, the Grand Canyon doing it the touristy way was a vast disappointment, but I know how I would like to do it again sometime in the future.
Yeah.
I was expecting more of the same from Niagara Falls, and I was literally blown away. Niagara Falls was amazing.
I don't know how to navigate this on my phone. I just wanted to give a big shout out to our boy Garrett. You know, we're talking about, you know, we always talk about bike packing. Mm-hmm. He had an incredible opportunity, and he is in Glacier Falls, Montana right now, and is doing, I think it's Glacier Falls is where he's starting. What's the name of this town? He's right by Whitefish Lake. So he's going to ride part of the Tour Divide.
Okay.
And he's going to go north. Here's his planned route right here. He's going to go north into Canada.
Okay.
He's going to spend the night in Canada and then come back across the border and then do a big loop. He's doing right at 350 miles, if I remember correctly, and the elevation's like 24, 27, somewhere in that range. And he's going to take 6 days to do it and just like ride 50, 60 miles a day.
Is he hunkering down with somebody, or is he doing this solo?
He's doing solo. And I talked to him about nutrition. He's very utilitarian as far as nutrition goes.
Yeah.
But he is carrying all of his food for the entirety of the trip, which I had lunch with him last week. And that was one of the things we discussed was carrying all his nutrition, like how he does it. It's a completely different approach than I would do.
It sounds like it might need a whole episode of its own. What's the thumbnail sketch of that?
So, ramen for breakfast, pre-crushed,
okay,
using last night's dinner bag.
Okay.
And then he does almost like a drink mix that's half protein, half, I keep wanting to call it baby formula, but it's not. It's like a baby food that's powdered that he mixes together and drinks. And so his calories, it's all about calories to him over the course of the day.
Yeah.
And then obviously he's going to filter water, but and he said any resupplies are just going to be bonuses. But he's carrying 6 days of nutrition, breakfast through dinner.
Okay.
Which I think is pretty impressive, because that's when I bike pack on a multi-day trip. That is the hardest thing.
And it's all dehydrated, I assume?
So he's doing Mountain House dinners in the evening and ramen for breakfast every morning. And then he said he's got, we need to have him on and just talk about.
Will.
I'd love to have him on after this trip, hear about the trip, hear about how his nutrition, how he manages his nutrition, and what and if anything he would change.
So, again, thumbnail, because this would be definitely a part of the discussion. Is this all new stuff to him, or is this?
Yeah.
So he's never done it this way before. He hasn't.
Oh no! The nutrition is. Yeah, I thought you meant the course. He's just up there soloing it.
No, I'm talking the nutrition aspect of it. Is this a new process for him, or is this a way? He's established with this and knows how it works with his system and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's a freaking animal. Anyways, he goes out and rides fasted and rides with nothing but water in his bottles. He's a whole different level of animal. Dare I say he's my favorite African American.
Okay.
He's pretty awesome.
You're killing us. You're killing us.
I'm not.
You're killing us.
Not at all. He's awesome. We need to have him on the podcast, irregardless.
Now you're killing me. Now you're killing me.
Hey, speaking of timely.
Yeah.
Dinner.
Yes.
Did your bride enjoy it, even though she was falling asleep at the table?
Again, she wakes up at 4:00 in the morning.
I know. That's
okay. I am going to give you my negative from it.
Go for it.
I am going to give you my negative.
But
it's a me thing. It's not a Brad thing.
Go for it.
It's not a fam thing.
Go for it.
4 hours is too long. 3 hours is the sweet spot for us.
That was a short dinner.
No, it was 4 hours. 6 to 10.
Well, here's the thing. This dinner was exceptional in the fact that most people most dinners we have, people show up and they mill around, and it is 6:45.
I understand that.
And we're going, hey, sit down.
This is a me thing.
Yeah.
That's my point. That's what.
Yeah, but we served the last course at like 9:45, which is that's pretty fast. And then there's always a balancing act, and it really depends on the crowd. I'm not getting defensive. I'm just telling you the things that you don't kind of pick up on when you're just focused on your plate and next course. But there's a balancing act between serving in a timely fashion, spacing it out, building anticipation, versus force feeding people.
I agree completely.
Again, pacing is probably one of the most difficult things.
I can't imagine putting all those pieces together myself, and that's where I was about to go with it.
Yeah,
we're going to be the outliers. Anyway.
Well, I mean, anybody gets up at 4 o'clock is going to struggle at 10 o'clock at night.
And the old farts, and it's like.
Yeah.
That was not our circle.
That's fair.
That was not our circle. Nothing against
arguably that's self-induced.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
100% so.
Yeah.
And so that's not on you. That's not on them. Again, we're back to that's a we thing.
Yeah.
And
McAfee struggles with the same thing when he's been here a couple of times, and he gets up at 4 o'clock and races Zwift in the morning. So by 8:30, he's like,
the next time I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. We're going to do it as a ShiftLess specific crew.
Oh, okay.
And maybe start a touch earlier and maybe end a touch earlier.
We could do that. I mean, that's easy to do.
And a tighter circle.
Yeah, and maybe just tell Jan, hey, catch a nap, cranky.
I was done too.
Yeah, that's fair.
I was done too.
That's fair.
But it would be different if I was yucking it up with some people that I knew better.
That's true. I mean, I get that. I totally get that.
And that's a me thing. That's not a you thing.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, just to throw you under the table a little bit, you don't really like people. So a lot of our attendees enjoy the aspect of meeting new people.
Agree 1,000%.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm saying. It's not a good fit for me.
Yeah, to me, I liken it to the sushi bar aspect, where you go into the sushi bar and you sit at the sushi bar and you're surrounded by strangers, and by the end of dinner, there's the camaraderie that food kind of strips away inhibitions, and also the layering of alcohol doesn't hurt either.
Well, and I don't drink, so.
Yeah, but by the end of the dinner, everybody's exchanging numbers, and we should hang out. We have so much in common. I understand. That's what I'm saying.
You're generalizing these things.
You are the outlier. You're atypical in this situation.
But I am atypical, but not unique.
No. But I'm saying.
Well, I am unique, but
for the most part, in my observations, our dinners tend to go that way.
I agree. I agree.
And that's
why in my world, positive. The right way for my bride and myself to do these, because we're not going to turn our personalities and lives upside down.
No, and I wouldn't expect you to. I'm just saying
is to do the private party approach.
Yeah.
That's a better fit for us.
Absolutely.
And nothing against any of those people that we were sitting at the table with. Well, a couple of them, but that's a different.
It is interesting. That, like I was saying, people let their inhibitions down, and people start to get. It's funny to see the volume level just gradually go up through the night, but the conversations just start to get even more out of hand, and people just keep pushing the lines of conversation, and I get embarrassed sometimes, because people are talking. I walk up to the table and people are talking about stuff that I don't want to participate in.
Understood.
So that's a delicate situation too.
Yeah, and there were some of the folks they were trying to get us to the point to talk about politics. It's like, that ain't happening.
Yeah, that's not
happening.
That's not a cool move.
This food's too good
to ruin with politics.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah. But I thought service went really well.
Service was fantastic.
Yeah.
The food was fantastic. I cannot classify what my favorite was at the moment. I touched on one. That pesto was amazing. Bar none. Best pesto I've ever had. We're definitely going to have a sit down on a full pesto entree of something you whip up for me somewhere down the road. The gazpacho top, that was...
Dude, that's one of my favorites.
I love that so much. I can't begin to describe. And the Rice Krispie treat at the end.
Isn't that stupid? It's so fun and ridiculous.
Now, I will be honest with you. That's one of those that was a polarizing one at the table. The 80%ers are like, this is amazing. 20%ers are like, no, not for me.
Yeah.
And there are going to be those things.
And that's fine. And I'm perfectly okay with that. I have multiple goals in the dinner, personal goals and, like pushing people's boundaries goals. But I don't want to ever put something in front of somebody that's so divisive that they're just immediately off put. But my main takeaway, my main thought is, even if you don't like a course, there's still 8 other courses.
Right.
But the other thing that I'm always thinking of is I want something that you wouldn't order. Like you would never order a black sesame miso Rice Krispie treat.
No.
But after you try it, you go, I might order that. That's one of my small goals. And like the watermelon gazpacho, that's super seasonal. It was hyper regional in a sense. The watermelon was from Hatch, New Mexico, and it's Hatch chili season. And so I did roasted Hatch chilies with a Hatch, New Mexico watermelon. So it was a Hatch watermelon gazpacho.
Well, since we're starting there, walk me through each of the courses one more time, and let me just give you my shotgun thoughts on them.
Well, I wanted to say back to the soup real quick, and I will. I'll walk you through every one. I'll give you a super quick elevator pitch on each one. But I love starting with soup, and I love in the summer, especially when it's 100 degrees, I always try to start cold and end cold. But I love starting with soup because soup's one of those things that most people, especially in our age range, don't order soup. I think soup's a very neglected thing.
I'm a fan of the soup.
I'm a fan of the soup too. But I'm trying to, not single-handedly, but do what I can to carry the torch for soup because I really believe that any soup that's made with love can be amazing. And it's also one of those things, I put it down in front of people, and a lot of people are like, soup? And then they taste it, and they're like, oh, this is good. And then, to me, that's kind of the handshake of the dinner. Like, you kind of put them on the ropes a little bit, and then you earn that.
That was a fantastic introduction to somebody that hadn't fammed before.
Right.
It's like, oh, I am in for something different here.
Yeah. And then you kind of earn that confidence through a kind of a back door because nobody's anticipating it. And then they taste the soup and they're like, okay, I'm in. It's a handshake of sorts as far as I'm concerned. So first course.
A very robust
yeah,
and friendly handshake.
Yeah. First course.
Bold.
Pull you in, tap on the back. Yeah. That kind of handshake.
Just twice though, not 3 times.
Not 3 times. First course, Hatch watermelon gazpacho. Sherry vinegar on top, Texas olive oil, smoked sea salt. Second course, I'm trying to remember what order they were in. Oh, it was whipped goat. No, that's course 3. It was the pesto, the Calabrian, or we call it, it's our take on a caprese. It's a pistachio pesto, San Marzano tomatoes that are cut and wilted with salt. So just basically 10 minutes, 15 minutes before service, I salt them with sea salt, keep tossing them so they kind of weep tomato juice. That way the tomato incorporates throughout the dish instead of just in the bites they're in. Pearl mozzarella, all that gets tossed together right before service. Homemade Calabrian oil and a champagne vinegar reduction. course,
hold on. Let me get my.
Yeah. Go for it.
So, again, I said that's the best pesto I've ever had, which it was. And obviously it was just a small appetizer. But the selling feature for this one, and this might be one of our unpublished food podcasts where we talked about it. But the takeaway from that one was my wife looked at me and said, "You ate all your fucking tomatoes." Yes, I did.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too. Is like, I had a guy that I worked with. I say guy, a man that taught me a lot about food, but taught me more about personal relationships and dealing with customers and stuff when I was very early into my food venture. But he notoriously used to say, you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit. And I take that to heart, like meaning every ingredient in a dish has to be right. So to that thought, like, I buy my tomatoes, I make sure that they're ripe. I treat them every step of the way as best I can. And that's part of the consideration is, I want them to get salted ahead of time, not just for the salt aspect, but so they start to leach out their juice, so they can meld, so you get that tomato flavor. And then obviously the pesto has to be perfect. The mozzarella has to be seasoned as well, and it gets seasoned in the process. And then it's the little accoutrements as well. I mean, to me, everything has to be perfect. Everything needs to taste good on its own. That's my philosophy. So.
And then next,
whipped goat cheese on the base of the plate, grilled white peaches. They're cooled, peeled, sliced. Dandelion greens, ripped and torn. That's the pepper aspect of the whole thing. Torn bracciola, which is an air-cured beef, which brings in kind of that beefy saltiness, and then a grilled bulb onion oil, just to kind of tie everything together. One of my favorite summer dishes. To me, it's just brings the grill aspect, brings the peach season, the cured beef from feasibly the season before. It's just good stuff.
It was like bringing in the whole market onto one plate.
Yeah,
it was really neat.
And there's a really good balance in there.
Yeah.
Like everything, you can get that perfect bite.
Balance is one of my favorite words when I'm talking about dishes and food and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those that is underappreciated a lot of particularly in the Texas barbecue world. But balance is, man, it's so tough to pull off. And you obviously focus on that.
That's one of my main things. And the other thing is, a lot of people don't ever think about this, but when I'm doing multi-course, I'm always considering, how does this dish taste after this dish? Like, where did we leave here? Did we leave with high acidity? Did we leave with high fat? How does that carry into the next dish on the palate? So it's always a balancing act between dishes as well, and overall of the menu. As far as how much food is served, how each course plays into each other. I mean, there's so many little things behind the scenes that I'm weighing to make sure that everything kind of flows, if you will.
Sure.
And sometimes even I break my little unsaid rules. But okay, course 4. Did a sockeye salmon dynamite, which is a play on a Japanese sushi bar preparation. But so I took sockeye salmon, rough chopped it, did a quick marinade for about 4-ish hours with sake, sea salt, and mirin. And that just firms up the flesh a little bit instead of making it mushy. But it also takes a little bit of that fishy flavor, if you will, out. Kind of subdues the oiliness just a touch. Then that, right before service, that gets drained. And then a homemade dynamite sauce gets incorporated with it. Japanese mayonnaise, homemade sriracha, touch of honey, lime juice, I'm forgetting a bunch of stuff. Sesame oil. I said soy sauce. I used a smoked soy sauce. Green onion. There's something else in there that I'm forgetting right now. But that gets tossed. And then we had a fried rice paper that's cooked in coconut oil. It's a flash fry. It's a really cool process. Sliced cucumber on the bottom. Trout roe on top. And then a little stripe of homemade sriracha on the plate as well. And then, of course...
Hold on.
Yep.
Got to give my impressions.
Yeah, go for it.
You're ignoring me, Bradford.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm so hurt.
I'm sorry. I'm just flowing.
It's cooling down.
Yeah, it feels good.
That one was my bride's favorite for the night. And it was near the top of my list as well. That was simply outstanding. And I chased every little row. I didn't let a row go to waste on that.
I love that just mouthfeel.
Yes. Boop. It's like, boop.
It's just a little salt water balloon for your mouth. It's good stuff.
Yeah, that was amazing. All right, next.
Course 5, I did crab agnolotti, which just means pinched ravioli, essentially. So obviously homemade pasta. The ravioli stuffing was whipped goat cheese, lump crab, chives, clementine zest, just a whisper of nutmeg and cayenne just to kind of richen up the goat cheese experience and to highlight, kind of counterbalance the crab, the sweetness of the crab, if you will. And then for the sauce, it was just a simple homemade butter, clementine juice, chive. I think that's it. And then I used some pasta water to thin it out and then let it kind of tighten back up. And then it was just garnished with chives. Try to keep it simple, let the pasta and the crab balance, play with the orange a little bit, and just light, summery pasta.
Simple is a great word for that one. It's hard to describe. It's a dish that it seemed perfect while I'm eating it. While it's beautiful, taste is fantastic. Fantastic balance. And I don't want this to come across as critical because it's not critical at all. It's not the one that stood out for me for the evening, but while I'm having it, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It was ideal.
Yeah. Well, I think in the United States especially, we have disproportionately considered pasta as a main dish, and that's not typically how it's enjoyed in Italy. It's just one component of multi-course. And so that's what, I mean, I could have an entire bowl of that pasta and be perfectly happy.
No doubt.
But it is meant to be a course. So, yes, I want it to be amazing, but I also use that to kind of step down from the salmon.
And maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, because
maybe after the salmon.
Yeah, because that salmon's a big, oily mouthfeel, kind of bigger flavors and everything. And then the pasta is kind of subtle. Let's bring in a little acidity, but not too much because we still want to highlight the crab.
But still keeping the seafood in the mix.
Yes. And then that really sets you up for the next dish, which is the heartiest of the courses. I did a simply seasoned sous vide and then seared pork tenderloin, cooked at 130. So it still has a little bit of pink in it, but just absolute fork tender. Did a fresh cherry and shallot demi-glace on top of that was mounted with a little homemade butter. And then the potatoes were salt crusted and then tossed with black garlic olive oil, and then roasted. I think it's a super simple dish. Once again, great balance, good meat and potatoes dish for that person It's like, where's the meat and potatoes? But also, once again, coming off of the pasta, that's a big mouthfeel, protein-laden dish, and still staying with fruit, Mm-hmm. So there's some dance into that, and I just think it's a great dish, and that pork is hard to beat. You can't fuck up with the sous vide. So, thoughts on that one?
It really rounded out. It was like the ideal fulcrum for the evening.
Yeah.
Along those ways. Again, another one that didn't stand out, but it was like you were saying. It's meant to be a meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
Base level. This is the feature. It was very, very satisfying, and I don't want that to be understate what it brought to the mix by any stretch of the imagination.
It sounds like, just like Justin Carey, you peaked early. Kind of went out hard and then
maybe you're the one that peaked early. Maybe
we both peaked early.
Well, I mean, but you're touching on it. I think the dynamite salmon may have front-loaded things a bit, not in a negative way by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, that's fair. It's funny because the other thing that nobody sees is I kind of keep a running tally on returns.
Yeah.
Because in the end of the meal, it's a little bit more difficult because people get full. So the returns aren't really fair. Some people are just like,
I don't think I returned a speck of anything.
But this dinner, and probably our last, I'd say dozen-ish dinners, the returns have been kind of even across all courses. But there was nothing that was just a standout on that dinner on Saturday where it was like...
I wasn't looking that closely, but I didn't notice anything going to waste at our table.
So course 7, now we start to get into sweets. I did a mango creme brulee, which once again, it's height of summer. I want to highlight fresh, good fruit. Obviously mangoes aren't local, but so I take fresh mangoes and puree them and then reduce them over the course of like 4 or 5 hours just to tighten them up and really not caramelize the sugars, but highlight the sugars, bring the sugars like big time in the mix. And then that goes into my cream milk mixture and eggs, and for a traditional creme brulee, touch of vanilla just to give it that cream base taste, and just a hint of sea salt to once again highlight the sweetness, the natural sweetness of the mangoes. And then we just garnished it with a fig because figs are in season and they're so pretty and it's such a contrast, and then also to bring in a little texture.
And so tasty.
Yeah. So I recently learned, I didn't even know this, that some people think you have to peel figs to eat them. As someone that grew up around fig trees, and my grandmother had huge fig trees in her yard in Mississippi that I used to climb. They were that big. And always eating figs. I've never peeled a fig, and I didn't even realize that until I was talking to Caleb a couple of weeks ago.
News to me.
He thought...
I scraped the meat on mine.
What do you mean you scrape them? So you don't eat the peel?
Well, didn't think you were supposed to.
Yeah. Oh, you eat the whole thing.
What? I want my fig back.
Yeah, so I noticed that at dinner that some people just ate the middle out and left the peel. And I was like, okay. So it's
maybe
more...
make that part of your introduction next time.
It's more of a thing than I thought it was. I thought it was just a Caleb thing. So...
I've never had a fig peel in my life.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not saying it...
I mean, wash them.
Okay.
But yeah, you eat them. When they're ripe, the peel should be thin and just give. You should be able to just crush it in your hand when it's nice and ripe. So, yeah. Anyways, I didn't realize that was a thing.
I bet you just educated a bunch of people.
Yeah. So now I know, and you're right. Next time I serve figs, that will be part of the, hey, eat the whole damn thing. Don't waste my fig.
There you go.
Of course.
You got any figs left so I can try that?
No, I did make some fig preserves from Caleb's fig tree. He gave me a bushel of figs, and I made fig preserves.
So he's got a fig tree, and he didn't know that.
Yeah. He's the one that because I picked up a fig and ate it, and he goes, I thought you had to peel them. And I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. So I looked it up, and yeah, some people think you do. So course 8, we did black miso or black sesame miso Rice Krispie treats with a maple miso butter on the plate. So I take maple syrup, bring it to a simmer, incorporate miso, and then fold in butter to make a butter sauce. And that alone is such a fun flavor. I think it goes really well with the Rice Krispie treat. And the Rice Krispie treat to me is so fun because the majority of all adults have had a Rice Krispie treat at some point in their life, whether it's handmade, homemade, or store-bought. And so you have this preconceived notion of what a Rice Krispie treat tastes like. And there's such a juxtaposition between what you know it's going to taste like and then what it actually tastes like, because once again there's this balance between sweet and savory that goes on there, because it is sweet, but it also has butter in it, and it has miso in it, and then it has sesame flavor in it. So there's that balance between sweet and savory, and there's also, the whole time you're eating it, it's kind of a mind fuck, because you're going, this is a Rice Krispie treat, but it doesn't compute with all of my previous experience. And I think that's just fun, It
was outstanding.
Yeah.
We've already talked about that one, but yeah.
Well, I think it's stupid fun. And then course 9, we did gooey butter cake ice cream. So homemade gooey butter cake, homemade ice cream base, and then I did a Woodford Reserve bourbon reduction that got folded in. And I think just the gooey butter cake and the bourbon and ice cream, like great finisher when y'all left, it was still 95 degrees or whatever.
Yep.
So I love finishing with a cold dish, And I just think that's a kick-ass ice cream.
Best ice cream I've ever had.
That's hyperbolic, buddy.
Is it?
Yeah.
Where would I have had better ice cream?
Plenty of places.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Well, high praise. I appreciate that.
So, that was a 5 out of 4 star experience there. Absolutely amazing. I wish we could do more of these. I'm always happy when our schedules align so we could do.
It is a rare occurrence. Much like me making it to Spinistry events.
I don't bust your balls over that. You don't bust my balls over this.
Speaking of which, what's on Spinistry's radar this weekend? I have nothing going on this weekend.
Oh, well, we've got a lot of shit going on this weekend.
Awesome.
We're doing a Friday night ride, we're doing a Saturday night ride, and we're doing a Sunday night ride. All 3 different locations and different types of rides. We were going to do a nighttime ride over Labor Day weekend. I threw it out there for a vote. Which night do y'all want to do it? And all 3 nights tied. So I was like, Friday night's going to be out of the Fort Worth Stockyards.
Okay.
And we're going to do a Funky Town Ramble.
Okay.
Good bit of the Trinity Trails, but we're catching some of the high points, the Stockyards and Martin House and some of the other stuff along the way. Just if people want to stop, there's a place to stop and have a cold drink. But
I just wish Martin House didn't make so many funky ass beers.
I understand. Yeah. They're very convenient to those riding the Trinity Trails.
No, I get it, and they've got a great market there.
But we're picking up some of our old stockyards up to Buck Sansom Park, and then we're going to wind around Marine Creek Lake and back towards Sansom Park on the new paved trails that go up from the lake through Sansom Park and to most of the way to the Trinity Trails, which is pretty cool.
Awesome. What's the mileage on that?
40, I believe.
Oh, Okay.
Maybe 43.
What time does that start?
7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. Saturday night, we're doing it out of Cypress Waters. Going to start from Rodeo Goat at Cypress Waters. That's that North Lake in Coppell with the gravel trail that goes around it. And there's a office complex and apartments and shopping there. So Rodeo Goat's there, some seafood place and a pizza place. We're going to start there, do a lap around the lake, catch the roads over to the Sam Houston trails and the Campion Trail, and come back and do another lap around the lake and finish at Rodeo Goat. The idea, that one's a 30-mile ride if you do one lap around the lake, but that gets you back to Rodeo Goat by 10 o'clock, even if you're slow, and we can get a final serving of a burger there.
Rodeo Goats.
If you want a burger.
Pretty top-notch burger joint.
If you want a burger, I can't really think of a better burger joint around here.
And decent beer selection.
And that. Yeah. And they've got a patio on the lake there, so convenient for bike riders.
Yeah.
And then Sunday night, we're going to meet up at...
Wait, what time? Do all of these start at 7?
7.
Okay.
And Sunday night, we're going to meet up at the park in Salina and do a true nighttime gravel grinder. No after party per se.
Not going to stop by Rollertown?
Well, it'll probably be... It's nearby.
Yeah.
If folks want to roll that way afterward, I don't know how late they're going to be open on Sunday night.
Oh, yeah, it's Sunday. That's right. I forgot.
But it is Labor Day weekend, so
it's true.
So that's kind of a hit or miss thing there. So I intentionally did, because they've got like very limited parking there and everything like that. So I knew.
Not really.
Oh well, maybe it's been a while since I've been there.
Yeah. I think they have pretty good parking.
Okay, but anyway,
it's in an industrial strip.
We're meeting and starting and ending at the park. But if folks want to go over to Rollertown afterwards, they're welcome to.
Rollertown does some pretty decent beers for a brewery that most people haven't heard of.
So that's the next ministry stuff. What's FAM got going? So we talked about all these courses and all your wonderful balance and everything. What's the upcoming FAM schedule with openings?
Man, I do have a very, very exciting thing to announce.
Oh,
it's not going to interest you, but it's not until November 16th. We have booked my favorite rep from Mile Lemon Green Distillery again to come out. So they're out of Blanco, Texas. Female head distiller, female master blender. Makes some incredible whiskeys. So my buddy Derek is the rep for Mile Lemon Green, and last time he was here, to say it was a party is an understatement, but he brought 10 whiskeys, and so we made our intro cocktail with their house rye, and then he proceeded to serve a different whiskey with every course. It was amazing. It will sell out quick. So
is this regular price or is this premier price?
It's going to be the regular price. That's what Paula and I are talking about. Although there is a pretty big chance I'm supposed to hear back at the end of this week from my buddy, who I think by every measure is a threefold better chef than I am. He was my mentor for quite some time. I worked under his tutelage for a handful of years, and he went on to he was the executive chef at Opryland, and then went to the Iowa Convention Center, where huge events get handled, like Republican National Convention, all these very big events. I'm trying to get him to come down and guest chef with me for that as well.
Okay.
Tremendous chef, extremely incredible palate, and just his knowledge of food and ingredients baffles me, and techniques. I still learn from him.
All right. So November 16th for sure.
November 16th.
Not open yet. No bookings yet?
Not open yet.
When are you going to open bookings?
So Caleb is actually coming by today.
Yeah.
And we are going to send out an email blast. That's the thing that I'm about to start. It's already 11:30.
It is.
I think we should go ride our bikes.
Oh, wait a minute. I got to turn this up first. What do we got to do?
Go ride your bike.